Y'all ready to blaze away or what?
Welcome back to the channel, everyone. If you're new here, please consider subscribing to the channel. We're trying to reach 40,000 subscribers and we're very close. Today, we're going to talk about what's going on currently with EVO. At the time of recording, it will be happening in about, I want to say, a week and a half. I'm sure it's going to be some great action there, some great reveals there. It's going to be very amazing. But before we talk about any of that, who's showing up is always the question when you're talking about the biggest tournament of the year in terms of just what it means for the FGC, because we know there's tournaments that's giving out more money now. This one isn't really dishing out that much money, but it's more so about the prestige of winning EVO Vegas. It's a big deal, but this time around it's looking a little dicey. First off, we got to highlight where the games are at currently. We'll only tackle a couple, starting with Street Fighter 6. They had the big reveal with Tifa and the 3 characters. There is some controversy around those 3 characters and no returning characters, but still they have peak playership with the last update that they did, reaching 72,000 people. That broke the previous record. They also said that the majority of their player base is new. About 70% of their player base is between the age of 15 to 25 and is a whole new audience who's loving the game. And it gives Street Fighter so much life and so much potential, so much so to where they want that game to have a 10-year lifespan. Now, as for Tekken 8, this game was doing very rocky, ups, downs, kind of crazy. We know that the developers left a lot of the lead guys, but even with that being the case, they put out a couple of good updates before they did so, and they also put out one of the biggest reveal trailers for a character in modern history for Tekken, and that being Yujiro. That one announcement combined with Kunimitsu and an update that came alongside her put the player count really high, put the sales in the top 100 for Steam, giving that game a lot of momentum even when players are still skeptical about balance. Now, being a couple of days past all of those reveals, you have this tweet here from Perfect Legend, which says, fighting games on Steam charts today, June 12th, 2026. All games, 100 people playing more and more. So you can see Street Fighter 6 has an average player count of about 43,000. You can see that 70% of the player base showing up massively, and so much of that comes from Japan. Tekken 8 at 8,700. Guilty Gear Strive is at 2,000. Mortal Kombat 1 and Mortal Kombat 11 is also in the 2000s, and then the other games on this list are 1,000 and below. You have some of these games even reaching about 100 players. DOA 6 being at the very bottom. This is why they're working on the new one, and when that game releases, hopefully it will be at the top alongside the other games. Now, having a lot of players in theory should translate to having a lot of people show up to the tournament. And just to put it into perspective of actually how many people who's playing the game, we have this website here, ewgf.gg, which I talk about a lot. But you can see the active 30-day players is 500,000. This is how many people turned on their game and played Tekken 8 over the past 30 days. But then you even have this section here which shows how many people played the game over the last week, and it is 326,000. So that's the real true scope of Tekken 8's player base, and with Street Fighter being so much bigger, you can multiply those numbers by however much you want to get there. And with that being the case, how many of those people are traveling out to tournaments? Well, as we can see here, posted by EVO, the leaderboard, Street Fighter 6 is the biggest game at EVO 2026 with 2,414 people showing up. Tekken 8 is second place with 1,354, and then 2XKO, the game that had a very rocky launch and the game downsized because not that many people were buying it, is third place with 1,080 players here. And then another game has 1,000 as well, which is Rivals of Etheria 2. Hopefully I pronounced that right. But there's 4 games with over 1,000, and then the others have sub 1,000. Guilty Gear Strive, being a game that was third place last time and had healthy numbers last time, they're kind of dropping a little bit. And honestly, I don't know why, because the people, well, actually I do know why. We'll talk about that. But the people loved the most recent update for Guilty Gear Strive. So basically the morale for all of these games should be really, really high. A point that I want to bring up to explain why Rivals of Etheria 2 has such high player base is because it was actually promoted by a huge content creator by the name of Ludwig. Ludwig says this on Twitter: I'm seeing some people are upset at the placement of Rivals Etheria 2 at EVO. For anyone unaware, I am a publisher for that game. I also remember being in a crowd at EVO 2026 and watching Hungrybox beat Armada through losers. Skipping down a little bit, Ludwig says, to clarify, I did buy a bunch of EVO passes to help make this the biggest Rivals 2 tournament we've ever had. We handed out passes to the top 120 players, ran online qualifiers, ran locals, and gave passes to the TOs to give out to their community. I'm sure I got taken advantage of and people sold codes, shared them without permission, and signed up with no intent of playing. But that's the price I'm willing to pay to make this the biggest Rivals 2 event we ever had. So you can see that these numbers for this game was kind of inflated by Ludwig. He basically reached into his own pocket and bought tickets for so many players. I can't remember the number exactly, someone told me, but he bought so many tickets and he gave it out to people so people would at least be interested in playing, so that at least the numbers will be high. And honestly, I'm not angry about this. I know that there's a lot of people who like fighting games and they want them to succeed. And this is the greatest example of that, where people will go so hard just for their game to get like a spotlight, just for their game to get up top. And it's beautiful to see. But talking generally about the other games and how their player counts is shaping up, this is where you got to talk about what happened at the previous year, 2025. Street Fighter 6 had 4,000, Tekken 8 2,000, Fatal Fury 1,500, along with Guilty Gear Strive. And then the other games had about 900 to 300. So when you look at 2026, the numbers are down across the board. And someone actually did the math, and you can see that it's a 43% decline for Street Fighter, 47% decline for Tekken 8, 39% for Guilty Gear Strive. The biggest decline is Fatal Fury City of the Wolves, which is 71%. And then as you can see down here at the bottom, there's only one game that's going upwards, and that has a 451% increase. So that's a big uptick. We have another person here who did a lot of research into understanding how significantly these numbers were impacted. And it says 2026 is the lowest entered EVO since 2024. Pretty huge drop off. And the graph here that they show, going back to 2014 when the group numbers was like actually shared, you can see that it was 3,944. But then every year prior, you can see it's 6,000 people, 9,000, 6,000, 7,000, 9,000, 7,000, 9,000, 10,000, 8,000 for a decade, never dropping below 6,000 and at times even 7,000. So when you look at this year and you see that they are at 5,000 players, first time in a decade this has happened, and a lot of people aren't necessarily panicking and saying that video games are dead and that, like, you know, we're screwed or anything like that. It's more so people just looking at the bigger picture. And what I mean by that is economy, is inflation, is how much does it cost to go to EVO, and how much money do people have, and how much money are they willing to put into going to EVO, right? The price of EVO over that decade has also increased. Hopefully with Saudi owning EVO, they would consider dropping the price. Probably not going to happen though. But it went from, I was speaking to one person and they said at one point in time, well, first off, EVO used to be free. But we know it turned into this kind of like community thing where players can go and fans can go. And then they start to have to pay like serious money. And once that happened, the price of it was around like 30 bucks, I was told, 60 bucks. But now fast forward all these years later, and a ticket to get through the door is like 200. If you want to play other games as well, you have to pay a fee for each one of those games. So if you want to show up for Street Fighter, Tekken, and Guilty Gear, you have to pay separately. And then also take into consideration hotels, planes, traveling, food, you know, just having fun in Vegas. All of this stuff can equal a huge chunk of cash that not too many people have to spend in the current landscape of the world, right? Gas is high, food is high, so much stuff is high, people are struggling to find jobs. This is just the result of the current landscape, and it kind of speaks to how dire it is, where you have this community event that people love going to and people were willing to pay that price tag and plane rides before, but now they literally just can't. They can't afford it. They can't do it. And a lot of people are just sitting this one out now. It's unfortunate because these games are all trying really hard to be good and deliver good products. Whether or not you agree with the end product is like, you know, we can have that debate. But it's like they're trying and they're reaching success. Huge trailers, huge reviews, huge announcements, huge player counts. But then the economy just is kind of holding it back a little bit. Regardless, I think that this EVO will be successful. I think it will be hype. I think the matches will be great because most people watch online anyways. So we're just going to have more viewership online, more people streaming it, restreaming it, making content. So they will be able to shrug this off. It's a big company that's supporting them, right? Saudi is supporting EVO, owns EVO. So they'll be fine in the long run. It's just crazy to see these numbers because it's an observation of what's going on a global scale. But thank you guys for watching. Like, subscribe, and bye-bye.